very close. It is required of all of us now to even pay closer attention to our readiness, closer attention to its track, closer attention to its size and the intensity of the winds, because we do anticipate there will be storm force to hurricane force winds impacting Barbados well into early tomorrow morning. Mr. Best did say sometime around 7 o'clock in the morning we could expect perhaps the worst of the Hurricane Beryl. But very soon we'll be expecting to hear from Prime Minister Mia Motley, who has been gathering the best minds around her to feed her the information that is critical. Having just come out of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup, now to have to deal with this, another one of those situations which we know we can believe our Prime Minister has the capacity to be able to manage. And so, as she has always addressed us, let's not be foolhardy, let's hearken our hearts to wisdom. And so we hope that throughout the night, that's what Barbadians have been doing, paying close attention, staying where you need to stay. But for those of you who know that your dwelling is threatened by high wind or rain, perhaps time now for you to relocate to another relative or perhaps to a shelter. Do not wait until things begin to deteriorate to the point where you are stuck to be able to ask for help. Move now if you have to move now. Pay attention also to the messaging from the Department of Emergency Management, because they, at some point, once we've been given the shutdown, will not be able to come to you. So it's important that you begin to pay some attention to what you need to do now in preparation for the passage of Hurricane Beryl. We also got word this evening from the Barbados Light and Power Company. We would have heard from Jackie Marshall Clark because there was some misinformation, but I believe the Prime Minister is now ready to address us. Prime Minister, good evening to you.
Good evening, Kirsten, and I hope that you are safe there at CBC as well as all of the other workers who are with tonight.
I am indeed, and so we hope that you are where you are a Prime Minister as well. Can you share with us what you know that we need to know?
Well, I wanted to be able, just before we close off, I've just taken the last briefing as a result of the 8 p.m. Information, and also as a result of the fact that the Hurricane Hunter has gone back in at 8 p.m. tonight. We do expect, let me just say that the hurricane, as it now stands, Hurricane Beryl, is 200 miles southeast of Barbados, and we do expect still that it will pass 80 miles to the south of the country early in the morning, as you heard from Mr. Best earlier in your news broadcast. The hurricane force winds are Category 4 winds at 130 miles per hour, making it a very dangerous hurricane. But we do believe that the Barbados will not get the brunt of the hurricane force winds. It seems at this stage that we will definitely get tropical storm winds. They have indicated 40 to 60 miles per hour and the possibility of gusts going to hurricane force. That means, therefore, that we still need to be extremely vigilant. Indeed, while we were taking the brief, Mr. Best Sabu indicated that they were already seeing 40 mile per hour winds at Charnock's in Christchurch. I had, where I am, also some rain and some slight gusts, probably not as high as 40 miles per hour. But the point is that you can tell that there's bad weather in the atmosphere. We expect, therefore, that the system will affect us, but we give thanks that we do not believe that it will be the worst of the hurricane force winds, but it is still strong tropical storm winds. And we've seen what tropical storms have done to us in the past, both in terms of loss of property, loss of roofs, and loss of other infrastructure. They do not necessarily expect more than 3 inches of rain, but the problem is that there is the potential for flash flooding as a result of intense rain in specific places. I do want to say that people should not be lulled into a false sense of security because of the absence of rain. We don't get notice on when a gust may come. And I want to urge Barbadians to stay inside. There is no reason for anybody to be on the road now unless they're an essential worker. And even then, there's going to be a point when the essential workers cannot be on the road as well. So I'd like us please to take heed and do not put at risk anyone else's life because of anybody's curiosity or desire to go outside. I want to urge you, I heard you person making the point about children, and I add to it elderly. There has to be a sensitivity to take care of those who are not accustomed to this kind of thing. Panic without even action coming from the hurricane can be damaging. And therefore, more than anything else, I want us to have a calm assurance, and to do the things that we know that we must do to keep ourselves safe and to ensure that people, um, at the same time, send up prayers to pray for the best, but continue to prepare for the worst. Um, the reason why I'm saying this is because during the afternoon, and you may have heard Sabu talk about the issue of wobbling. And if the system wobbles to the right, effectively to the north, Barbados can be more effective. And that's why I've waited to the 8 p.m. address as late as possible, where I can still reach a large number of people to address you, because we are conscious that even though we are appearing to avoid the worst of it now, there is still the possibility that the system can move. What happened this evening as well is that the system slowed down. I think yesterday we were looking at the system moving at 22, 23 miles per hour. It's now moving at 18 miles per hour. At the same time, I understand that there is a process happening now where the eye wall is undergoing a replacement cycle. And that probably means that the intensification of the hurricane will be halted at this point in time, which is good news ultimately, not just for Barbados, but for our neighbors, because we really certainly don't want to see it going to be in a Category 5 hurricane. I think you would have addressed, and let me say, over the course of the day, we would have had the continued preparations. The Deputy Prime Minister spoke early in the news about the work done by the drainage unit throughout the day. I can report to you, having just taken a report from the Chief Shelter Warden, that the 33 shelters are shuttered and are open, and people are still coming into it. And we urge people, those who want to go there, please go as soon as possible, because we don't want you on the road much later. There are a couple hundred people who are already in shelters. There are 33 Category 1 shelters, as you know, and those are already operational. With respect to the utilities, you started to address the issue with respect to Light and Power. Light and Power has indicated that they are happy that they can keep their system open. They have put measures in place to manage the network throughout the passage of the hurricane, to maintain safety and continuity of the system as long as possible. Their protection systems are designed to automatically trip any circuits that may be impacted by the hurricane, and they have teams in the control centers throughout the night monitoring all systems. There is a difference with the Barbados Water Authority, I'm advised, and I'm told that the General Manager of the Water Authority has been speaking to people. I want to apologize for any late notice that was given by the Water Authority. Regrettably, the reality is that if they don't shut down the pumping stations, it is likely that the pumps as well as the circuitry in the facilities can be seriously affected. And they have advised that if they don't do that and the pumps are destroyed, especially now with the difficulty in supply chains, that you can take from weeks to months to get back pumps, which would mean that those districts would be without water for weeks to months. And none of us want that. So I'm sorry that the notice came so late. The other difficulty, I'm told, is that there are over 40 stations that they have to go to, both pumping stations and boosting stations, and they have to go to each one physically in order to be able to shut it down. And that also means that the workers will also be at risk, and they too need to get off the road, certainly no later than 11:30, quarter to 12, given the feeder bands and the gusts that Mr. Best and the Met Office have advised we will be facing at tropical storm levels. This is not an easy moment for us all, and I hope that we recognize that we may well be facing more and more of these circumstances, and as we do so, it's a change in the way of life. Now is not the time for me to address that in detail. Now is the time for me to ask you to ensure that all who need to be inside are inside, and that people are safe, that we continue to pray, as I said, but at the same time, make sure that we batten down all that we need to batten down. I hope that we will have the ability to be able to have an all clear tomorrow that will see minimal damage, but at this point in time, we don't know until we go through the entire system. So this is the unfortunate nature of wait and see, but it is what it is. I'm happy to report that we have had significant levels of support offered by our neighboring countries in the Caribbean and Latin America in particular. And we also have had all of our development partners in terms of the financial institutions speak to us and indicate that they are here for us should the level of damage be so significant that we need to be able to invoke our natural disaster clauses, or that we need to be able to find additional contingent funding to be able to assist those who have been badly damaged. So I want people to go to sleep with the calm assurance that we got you. We got you. And just the one thing that we can't do is to stop the hurricane. But the one thing we can do always is to prepare and to become more resilient. And I believe that with that, we will talk again as soon as we can, Pearson. And I want us also to send up a special prayer for our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada. It does look as though the hurricane will go through the Grenadines. The eye of the hurricane will go through the Grenadines, and therefore means that St. Vincent as well is likely to be affected, like Barbados, as well as Grenada. As to the extent to which they will be depends on the continued track and movement of the hurricane over the course of the next 8 to 10 hours in particular. So my friends, let's be safe, let's send up prayers for each other, and let's hold each other. And as long we have a tradition in this country of listening to the radio and listening to the television as we go through the night. And then there's some who can sleep easily. And those who can sleep easily, I am envious of you and pray that you do so. But Pearson, I think that's it, unless there's anything else that you want to ask me at this point in time, or any of our sister radio stations that are connected to us, because I did ask for everyone to be connected at this point in time. And you would notice that I am talking from home because I really don't want to be in the road.
Well, you've answered all the questions I had on my paper to ask you very, very succinctly indeed. And I'm not sure if any of our partners would want to chime in at this time. My technical crew could advise me if there's anyone who wants to raise a question. But certainly, Prime Minister, we hope that you too stay safe where you are. You know, one can't assume because you sit in the position of Prime Minister that you are, you know, without the possibility of some damage. But please be very careful yourself.
Well, I must tell you that speaking to Prime Minister Gonzalez this morning, he made the point to his residents that the official residence in St. Vincent was built some time ago, and that he too is concerned about his own roof and is battening down in the downstairs of the house. So you've made a very valid point, and it just shows you that none of us are immune from this system, and therefore I really want Barbadians to take it seriously and recognize that we may be doing this a lot more. You can't talk about climate crisis and not expect the rubber to hit the road. And it hits the road regrettably with us, with the first port of call coming out of the Atlantic. And the significant thing is that the heat in the water, if you listen to all of the meteorologists, is reflecting heat that would normally be associated in September. And you know September is a danger month normally for us. So that better contextualizes where we are and why we're here so early on the 30th of June.
Indeed. Prime Minister Miyama Motley, thank you so much for joining us this evening to share your words of encouragement. I like what you said, we got you. That is the word I think most Barbadians will go to rest tonight knowing that the government of Barbados, we got you. Thank you so much, Prime Minister.
Thank you, and I look forward to speaking to all of you immediately after the system and doing whatever we have to do to bring about recovery to those who may have suffered. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Of course, you know, we'll be staying with you right through the night here at the CBC, interrupting coverage as we go, and we will have continuing coverage at 11 o'clock here as the combined stations of the CBC rise it out with you as we watch Hurricane Beryl. Now, just to remind you, the Prime Minister did say that based upon the latest information, the system is now 200 miles to the southeast of the island. The center should pass about 80 miles to the south. It's moving at 18 miles an hour, so slower than it was a little earlier on today, with Category 4 winds up to 130 miles an hour. with Barbados perhaps experiencing tropical storm force wind about 40 to 60 miles an hour, but that can shift given the variability of the system. It can shift one way or the other. While the island does expect, however, some flash flooding from about 3 inches of rain, and we want to encourage as many of you as possible to stay inside. We've heard confirmation that there are 33 shelters open. Some people have already begun to take shelter in those shelters. They're all shuttered, so one can rest assured that those two have been attended to as it relates to the integrity of those buildings. The Prime Minister reminded you that the Barbados Light and Power Company has confirmed that they will stay on. Basically, the light will stay on, the electricity will continue to flow, but their technicians will continue to monitor it. Where necessary, they will intervene to adjust that as well. We'll be back with more in just a moment, right here on CBC's Weather Watch.